And hopefully I can share some of those visions with you, because I see there's a lot of transformation coming down the pike from New Skin. And I know over the last, 14 years in Singapore now, in New Skin, I think it's 14 years, you still have lots of room to grow and lots of potential to be one of our most significant markets in spite of your size. I think every time we talk about this region, and particularly and specifically about Singapore, it's always been our role model. It's a model that many of our markets, we try to put what you do here so well into many of those markets. So thank you for teaching us a lot of things. And through all your leadership and all your enthusiasm and energy, it has really illuminated what we try to do in New Skin. Not just in terms of just the business opportunity, but also the other cultural pieces of New Skin, such as force for good and so on. Those things are also, you're really the epitome and the role models for all the other pieces as well, the non-financial one, which are equally important to make who New Skin is. And because it's not just about a business opportunity. New Skin, you have heard many, many times, it's a company built for you, by you, and with you. Without you, there is no New Skin. So let's talk about what we do over the last 10 years or so, especially on the product development side, which I'm responsible for. And you've heard a number of scientists coming through here. For example, Dr. Angela Mastaludis. She has been here to talk to you about age lock and lifespan and so on. So more or less I'll add some color to what she said to you, especially regarding the science. Scientists sometimes we get carried away. We try to explain our science, and then without really stopping and thinking, do you guys really get what we're trying to say about this product? So hopefully, with this color, from my point of view, that you get a better understanding of lifespan, which obviously went through a very successful LTO in this region in October. In fact, thank you on behalf of New Skin. I think you have done a remarkable job making that LTO such a success. Okay, so thank you so much. And pat yourself on the back. It's because of the success in this region that use Lifespan now, and sometimes I go to and fro between the names because you're known as Lifespan here. In the States, it's known as Youth, but because of regulatory reasons more than anything else, we have to use a slightly different name, but it's one and the same product. So it's been quite an important development. So when you look at New Skin, we call ourselves the leading anti-aging company, and hopefully these anti-aging products support your business opportunity, right? And the reason why we have chosen and decided to focus in this particular area of aging is because of this mega trend. It's because that this aging process is occurring everywhere around the world. Singapore is no different from any other markets where we have surveyed and look at the trends. I mean, clearly everybody points to Japan as the first country that started to see the population aging, and there is a huge desire to have products that can at least preserve the health during the aging process. So this mega trend obviously creates a business opportunity because the consumer base increases every year. Every year there is a significant percentage of the population adding to the aged population, right? So you can see when you have such an increasing consumer base, there's always going to be a demand for any anti-aging products that a company like us can bring to that population. Now, it's growing. I mean, in the US, you've seen in the video, you've seen on this slide. I mean, it's globally, it's about $346 billion by 2018. So once again, this is the evidence, if you will, to suggest and to indicate very strongly that this trend does translate to a very big financial number. So, I mean, taking all the facts together, this is not going to go away. We're all going to age, right? And when you look at the population as a whole, I think perhaps in Singapore, this is even more pronounced, if you will, because the birth rate is not as high compared to 50, 60 years ago. And therefore, what you have is that if you're having fewer children, then the adults have to keep working longer. And in order for that adult population to keep working longer, they got to stay healthy. And the only way to stay healthy is to make sure that health persists as you get older. So in science, you have these two concepts. First, 12 months from now, you are going to be a year older. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing you can do. You know, we're all going to be a year older. That's called chronological aging, or aging related to time. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have another type of aging, and that's what we, the scientists, we call that biological aging. Now, up to a certain point, until we're starting to understand with the help of the science of genetics, that there's no way you can separate chronological aging from biological aging. So a year from now, you will be a year older. A year from now, you're going to be a year less healthy. I don't think that is necessarily true anymore. What we have done with a product such as Wispan is to cut the connection between those two types of aging. So in other words, 12 months from now, when you are 1 year older, your body doesn't have to be 1 year older. That's what we have achieved with Wispan. All the science that you're going to hear in the next few minutes, and what I'm going to show some of the evidence with you, or for you, is the fact that it really distills down to this one simple fact, that the biological aging, or you can call it health span, is preserved by Wispan for many, many more years than without Wispan. Now, I notice you have some younger folks sitting here, right? And I mean, you're most likely not more than 35 or so. You belong to a particular demographic that is known as the millennials. And I'm so glad you're here, because when I say anti-aging to you, I suspect that many, if not all of these millennials, would say that this product, Wispan, for example, is not for me. It's for my grandmother. It's for my mother. They are the old people, right? Because it's actually, we've done some market survey on this term, the anti-aging, and it does result in what I've just said to you, the response from this particular group of folks that are called the millennials. Now, what I'm going to talk about, in spite of the fact that I'm showing you anti-aging trends and all, if I switch that phrase out, and I put in youth preservation, I think I might get a slightly more positive response from the younger folks in the audience. So think of it, if you are young, think of Wispan as a youth-preserving type of product, and not just an anti-aging product, right? And I know it's important that sometimes when you take a product like ours, you will say, I need to feel it, to believe what you say. With Wispan, what we are beginning to see and what we are beginning to understand is that that response that you feel, if you will, with Wispan will vary from person to person, because all of us age in a different way, and all of us relate aging somewhat differently. If you're a runner like John Wayne, okay, one of our leaders here in Singapore, now he's an athlete. He runs marathons. He does really rather incredible things. When I look at John Wayne, I get tired. Because he's such an athlete. his response, and he just sort of mentioned it to me just now, his is more related to his joints and to his level of activity. Okay? If you're not, and you're more sedentary, in other words, you're like a couch potato, right? Your response will be different from John Wayne's. You might think, well, I do a lot of work, a lot of thinking. You might be thinking clearer after Wisespan. So rest assured that Wisespan will give you a benefit, and rest assured that even if you don't feel it, our clinical evidence on all the clinical trials we've done, that Wisespan will provide you significant benefits if you persist taking the product. It's not a magic bullet insofar as, you can't take it for just a couple of weeks and say, I'll stop and it will work. No, because the genetics, the way that we look at the gene expression with our age-lock technology, we know if you stop, that product will also stop working. So these are some of the general statements relating to Wisespan, okay? And it will be the background to what I'm going to say and describe some of the things we've seen with Wisespan. We have become the leading anti-aging company. And you know why? I mean, seriously, when you think about it, which company do you know of that has both, these kinds of products that take care of the skin on the outside, and then also an equally potent and powerful category that accompanies it on the nutrition side, that we call the Pharmanex supplements. So when you take these two categories together and put it together, hopefully you're beginning to appreciate that is why we think we are the leading company, because there are very few companies that can actually demonstrate to you they have two of these categories in the same company, right? I mean, company H doesn't have it. Company H, right? Company A doesn't have it. So you can go on down the list. And that's why we innovate, because we know if we are going to maintain our leadership position and to have all of you have this business opportunity to continue to be vibrant and continue to be just, and this is really important, to be just as vibrant for a new person coming in relative to some of our older leaders, that is important, because this is not a company that had succeeded because of past leadership. This is a company that will continue to succeed with future leadership. That's the difference. And that is why we innovate, not just on our product side, but also on the other aspects of the Nu Skin business, so that when we innovate, we know we continue to refresh that opportunity, which is fundamentally what Nu Skin is all about. It's to make sure that when Nu Skin provides you with a business opportunity, it comes with products, with an income generation, and so on and so forth, or be that a new person can grab that opportunity and make it successful, and in fact, even more successful than past leaders. That is really what we're trying to do when we talk about innovation, right? Is that you want to make the new leaders have an equally, if not a better chance of succeeding in Nu Skin. And more importantly, I know the science can be a bit boring. I just went down this afternoon to visit with one of the biotech startup companies in the science park area, Biopolis, I think it's called, right? And talk to them and so on. Lots of science. And the science that were talking to me wasn't simple. It was pretty complicated. And even in spite of the fact that perhaps we try to make it easier to understand, science is still complicated. So if that is so, what it really means, even if you don't understand it, and hopefully you appreciate it, A business opportunity is great, but a sustainable business opportunity is even better. And in order to have the adjective sustainable before the business opportunity, the only way we know how is to make sure that our products will never ever embarrass you. And the only way not to embarrass you is to make sure that we make the best products in the industry. So that's really, what we're trying to do with the science. And we cannot say that we have the best products. We have to demonstrate how we develop those products. And while I'm not going to talk about the 6S process today, you've heard a lot about the 6S process, and with some of the new folks sitting in this audience, you may not, please ask about the 6S process, because that is our so-called quality control process that drives everything that we develop and everything that we manufacture, both on the skincare side and equally on the supplement side. So, now, I think this is slide. Yeah, I'd like to show you this slide. It's really not to boast to you, we have the best advisors in the industry. We do. Okay? But to tell you another story about these folks. And these are professors and world-famous scientists who don't really have to work with us, or who don't really have to advise the new skin scientists about scientific research and the latest scientific advances. Because they're already famous enough, and they're already well established in their field, and they're recognized. They don't need to work with a company like Nu Skin. The only reason that these famous scientists are willing to share some of their time with us as advisors is because they believe what we're doing is the right type of science. That's more or less a sort of a validation of what we do. Because if we just rely on our own scientists for our own views and our own scientific opinions, we can become what I call rather incestuous. In other words, our ideas, we sort of think it's great, and we revolve it until even it's the lousiest idea in the world. Because it's internal, we think it's great. So there's no validation. These scientists, on the other hand, will come and tell me like this and say, you suck. This is not a science you should be pursuing, and this is not a science you should be using. It's not the right approach. So it's more to us, that's the value that we get from these kinds of advisors. Age-Lock has become a sort of almost a brand name in Nu Skin now. We use it. But when we started on this Age-Lock approach, it was more than a name to us. It really represented, and it continues to represent, it represented what we're doing, how we understand the aging process via a genetic approach. We're starting to look at how genes can control aging in the body. And fundamentally, when we say age lock, well, it's sort of like it's locking in your age. And the way to do it is to make sure that those sources of aging that we now call genes, they don't get out of control. You may not realize this, but when you look at the body we now know will make every attempt to stay young. It has the capability and the inherent ability to stay young. The problem is because of external factors. And those factors related to our lifestyle, related to our environment, relating to the foods that we eat, All these things, unfortunately, if you don't do it in the right way, will make the body older. And it makes the body older by changing the gene activity. Not just one gene, but several thousand genes that control the aging process. You don't see it. It's almost insidious. It's almost like a cancer growing until it's too late. You guys all appreciate cancer, and it's sort of a word that frightens all of us, right? But the challenge with cancer is sometimes it grows. I mean, we wish we can detect cancer at first cancer cell that enters your body. I mean, in fact, that's what the company I visited in Biopolis, that's what they're trying to do, is to find these early markers of cancer. If we are able to succeed for every type of cancer, we have a much better chance of treating that disease, right? But you don't feel it, you don't see it. And most time when you get the cancer is when you start feeling ill, and then sometimes it becomes too late. Now, the aging process works along the same kind of insidious path. In other words, you don't even know that you are aging, or the aging is accelerating until it's too late. So we are hoping with a product like Wisespan that even though you don't feel it sometimes, right, that taking a product like Wisespan definitely slows down the aging process so that your body has a chance to repair and a chance to renew. So that's what we're doing. And ageLog has become a $5 billion brand with all the other products like R Squared that came before Wisespan. And it's together, both on the skincare side and the supplement side, if you aggregate it, it's now more than $5 billion, in terms of revenue for new skin. So our competitors, when they talk about anti-aging products, they're really talking about covering up the symptoms or the signs of aging. They're not doing anything more because they're not using this genetic approach. They're not trying to understand the sources of aging. All they want to do is to make sure that they give you a product that merely treats the signs of aging, right? It's almost like a cosmetic. We had done that, frankly, 20 years ago and 15 years ago and so on, because we didn't know any better either. But now, since we know about these genes, we don't adopt that traditional approach anymore. We now come on to ageLog, where this approach looks at the sources of aging. And those sources of aging, like I mentioned to you, are always invariably related to a particular set of genes. You may not know it. How important these genes are. You don't see them, right? You don't feel them. You can't even touch them. You can only see them under an electron microscope. But it's there. If I take a single cell from you, from a skin, for example, I can clone you. That's how important those genes are. Because that single cell has enough genetic material for me to duplicate it and make a whole new you. So that's how important these genes are. So that's what we have. And we have now acquired, over the last 5 years, the largest age-related genetic database in the world. This database nobody has. If you're in business and if you Google, right, the next big trend in business is big data or big data analysis. The reason why Google is so valuable and Facebook is so valuable is because they have a lot of information on all of us. So they can analyze that. Similarly, in biology, we have this database of genetic data that is so large now, it's approaching nearly 1 billion data points, that we can mine this data for new ideas, how to make future products. So really, the age-lock technology is patented, and it's very difficult to duplicate our particular age-lock approach. It took more than 30 years, and it's because of this technology that we call the gene chip. And with this gene chip, we can create gene expression profiles of young, healthy tissue relative to a gene expression profile of an old, unhealthy tissue. And now that we have these gene expression profiles, we can try and copy the one that we like to copy. And obviously, it's the one coming from young, healthy tissue. And that's the one on the left. And that's what Y-span, when we take Y-span and compare, after you take Y-span and compare the gene expression profile, it looks a lot like that young profile. So we know it's readdressing the usefulness of gene expression in the body. The age-lock technology is very simple. We have thousands, tens and thousands of natural ingredients in new skin. And what we do is to put all these ingredients. If you look at our age-lock technology as a filter, that's what we really do. We're filtering out all those ingredients that don't do anything by looking at their gene expression effect. And only choose the ones that give us a positive genetic effect. All right? And then taking all these individual ingredients, we can blend them together. I mean, it's almost like, making char kway teow, I guess. So, it's not just about the noodles, right? It's about the sauce and all the other things. So we can combine all these ingredients together to give us the final product. So that's what we do with age-lock. And then you stack up all the different specific, unique features of our technology. You can see why it's so hard to copy. Yeah, especially the fact that it took more than 30 years to reach our level of understanding of how the body ages in the presence of these genes. And our science has been published. This is just another show-off slide. Angela must have mentioned to you, lots of papers we've published. They go to scientific conferences and present our evidence so that all the other scientists can start getting up and criticizing the work and throw rotten eggs at Angela. So, yeah. So, but it's good because it's a form of validation of what we do is truly scientific. So I'm not talking about a lot new skin today, but you obviously have heard rumors and I'm sure rumblings, and I'm sure some of you might even have tried the new age-lock skincare product that's called age-lock Me. Yeah. It's all about me. Yeah, it's all marketing terms, okay? So don't blame me if you don't like the name. But it's great. It's coming, and maybe in the future we can talk more about that product. But it's a balance. It's really a very balanced categories that we have in new skin. So yeah, this is just some of the examples of previous products. Maybe I can drop a hint here. We're making a new spa. Oh yeah, galvanic spa there, right? Yeah. Yep. So yeah, Junwei, the first thing I sit down, Junwei said, tell me something new. Hey, it's such a busybody. So, and we haven't even launched a Y-span in Singapore until November yet, a full launch. But rest assured, he knows how to press the right buttons. Yes, on the galvanic spa, we'll most likely bring out a new version of that in about a couple of years. Okay? So, next global momentum. And then, so here on the Y-span side too, there will be a follow-on to Y-span that we're working on. I think it's pretty interesting on that one too. So, this arc, I call this a butt chart. If you look at the arrows, it looks like a butt. It keeps going up. So, and the reason for that is we like to say that every new product we bring out is not for the sake of bringing out the new product. It's to make sure that it complements and synergizes with your business opportunity. There's a whole thing now we're thinking, the the product is supportive of the opportunity, and therefore it has to fit into the overall business cadence or the business rhythm. You know, if you're like me with 2 left feet, you can't dance no matter how good the music is, but some people can really dance well because they got rhythm. So, yeah, I think so. So, and similarly in the business that we are in, we think that this rhythm is pretty important as well. So let's talk a little bit about this Y-span product we have. And the ingredients, this is an important point. The ingredients are unique. So in other words, all the ingredients that you find in the Y-span, if you look at ingredients, these are not your normal dietary ingredients. In other words, this is a product, regardless of what diet you eat, this is a must-have product. There's no way you can get away from that. This is a product, if you ask Angela or any of the scientists, this is a product that they will never ever forget to take. All right. And here's an example of this bioflavonoids and all that is included in Y-span. You know, you can get some of it, but you can't get enough of it unless you take Y-span. And also, the dose, the capsule that you take is a special type of capsule. It's called a Lee cap. And this is the first time ever that we've been able to take oil and a powder ingredient and put it into the same capsule. Previously, we had to use 2 capsules. So it is special technology. So when you look at Y-span, right? U-span, it's really about this youth span or the health span curve. Normally, as I talk to you about biological aging and chronological aging, as you age, right, you're up to a certain point and then you go on. With Y-span, as you age, your health span is preserved. That's the difference. In other words, when you can preserve your health span, if you will, what that means, you're going to die healthy. All right? And you go and think about what I just said, because those 2 words don't usually come together in the same sentence. But think about it. What do I mean when I say you can die healthy? In other words, your quality of life until the day you die is going to be as good as ever. That's the difference with Y-span. So, Angela has shown you all this stuff like cells and all these funny looking things floating inside the cell. I don't even